Hey everybody, this is Greg.
And this is Matt, and this is Record Mashup. We're excited to be here with episode 6 today. Our theme is airplanes. And before we jump into it, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button or follow us wherever you listen, whether it's on Google, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. Be sure to hit subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave us a comment or send us an email at recordmashup@gmail.com. So with that, Greg, what song you got lined up this week?
So I have Airplanes by B.o.B, Bobby Ray. This episode we'll be talking to Airplanes Part 1, so the original, just him and Haley Williams, not the one that includes Eminem in it. Matt, what do you got for us?
We're going to talk about Jet Airliner by the Steve Miller Band. So why don't we go ahead and jump into that song first, and then we'll pivot over to talk about airplanes, and we'll talk about the two together.
Sounds good, Matt.
Perfect. So Jet Airliner was written originally by a guy named by the name of Paul Rena. He wrote the song in 1973.
It's Paul
but he
Pena.
Pena. Sorry.
Pena.
I must have had a typo in my notes here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
No problem.
Yeah. So Paul wrote the song in 1973, and the Steve Miller Band recorded it in 1975, but they didn't release it until April of 77 on their Book of Dreams album. And it should be noted, Pena did eventually release the song on an album of his own in 2000, which was called New Train. But the Steve Miller Band was really the first to record and release it as a song. And it's a pretty catchy song. There's most of the time when it is played on the radio, it's actually combined with a song that comes right before it on the album that has this really cool kind of synthesizer part to it. So if you haven't listened to the song, I recommend listening to the versions that are called the long version, because you catch that little intro into it and kind of get the full effect of the song, and really kind of brings it all together. But Greg, the thing I like about this song, I think back to our first episode we ever did when we were talking about summer, and we talked about like the nostalgia feelings that we got from those two songs. And when I was listening to this song, actually both songs this week, I had a lot of that happening for me again, because I feel like this song by the Steve Miller Band, Jet Airliner, is a song that my dad would have been listening to when we were riding around in his truck, with the windows down, music, radio blasting. And it just seems like one of those songs that you just want to go joyriding to.
Yeah, I can't say I had the same feeling for it, because I've heard the song before. My dad definitely did not listen to this, just joyriding around in the truck or car or anything, so didn't get that nostalgia feeling, but I could see how you can get that from the song.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool, and that's what I was thinking about as I was listening to it. But let's dive in a little bit to the lyrics. This is the entire song, really. I think this is one of those songs that I think really anybody could interpret it differently. So, I was looking at some of the websites we like to check out before we record these, and everybody kind of generalized the song as it's a crossroads song, which I would agree with. But I think everybody could tailor that to their own personal experiences in life. And so for me, this was, I kept thinking about like going off to college as I listened to this song and that point in my life. But I could certainly see how other people could interpret it differently, based on whatever their own personal life experiences are, whether it's, if someone's joining the military, for example, that is a crossroads. And Greg, I don't know if that's how you interpret the song. I know you're in the military, but I read online a few people kind of see that as within this song. But generally
Yeah.
speaking, it's a song about a crossroads, right? And crossroads in individuals' lives. And my take on it was really, as we get into this first verse, it's about, leaving home and going out on your own, and you're trying to make it on your own outside your parents, outside the purview of your parents or whatever home environment you grew up in. And this metaphor for trying to make it in life. And it's interesting because you go into the chorus and he's talking about how he doesn't want to go too far from home because he'll have to stay wherever he lands. So there's still kind of this desire to be rooted in wherever you're coming from. And certainly if you grow up and you've got a close relationship with family, no one wants to be far from family. And I think certainly in this global world that we now live in, that's perhaps not the case as much these days, and families do live further apart, and thankfully to airplanes, that's a little bit more feasible these days. But that's, as I listen to the song, that's kind of how the words speak to me. And then when we jump down into the second verse, again, he's talking about how his heart is still at home, but this is something he's got to do. He may not make it on his own, or he might make it, and he's got to say goodbye to his friends at home and people he's trusted his whole life. And I love this other line too. He throws in here this line about, you've got to go through hell before you get to heaven. And it's this notion that things may be tough in life, especially as you're starting to get out there on your own. I remember, certainly college is a little bit sheltered, right? But certainly after college, and I was out living on my own, it was, you're learning how to be an adult, and that's rough, and things certainly are a little bit tougher before they get easier. So these all lines are, that's how I was reading this song, is that this was about the transition and learning how to adult for me at least. But yeah, were you gonna say something, Greg?
Yeah. I take that second verse as also trying to go out and get your dreams. So between this song and for my song, which I'll get into a little bit later, it's reminiscent of episodes, I believe it was 3 and 4 for our trains and our dreams episode.
Yeah.
Just with the trains episode, talking about, hey, going back to a simpler time, kind of reminiscing on the past, and the dreams portion, which is the second verse to this song, looking out. Sure, you have to say goodbye and everything, but he's still going out to get his dreams. Even if he fails, he's still going out there trying to do it. So with his line, I might get rich, I might get busted, but my heart keeps calling me backwards. Kind of talking about he might go out there and fail, he might not.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And this is really has nothing to do with the interpretation of the song, but since we're on the second verse, I love how he sneaks in here this reference to the 707, which of course refers to the Boeing 707, which was the first commercially successful jetliner.
Yeah.
Which is, so it's, the song's called Jet Airliner, and he just throws this reference in there, centered around this theme of airplanes. I like it. It's a nice reference.
Paved the way for airliners that we see today.
That's right. Yeah, there's the modern day, or the grandfather, if you will, to a lot of the airplanes that we think of as dominating the sky, such as the Boeing 747 or
the grandfather clock of airplanes.
Yeah. Exactly. So moving into the third verse, though, and again, this theme kind of carries forward. And he talks about how he makes it to a New England town. He never says in the song where he originates from, but in any event, he makes it to New England. It's where he's heading. And when he gets there, he says he sees some sketchy shit he doesn't want to get caught up in, and he seeks to avoid that. And again, it's just kind of this idea of, crossroads and transitioning from one point in your life to another. There's going to be bumpy, rocky roads through that process, and you're trying to take the high ground, and and come out on the other side okay. And I think that that's kind of what he's getting at here.
Mm-hmm.
The radio version to the song actually changed the phrase "sketchy shit" to the phrase "funny kicks," in an effort to try to clean up the language a little bit. But the original line is "sketchy shit." So
yeah, you gotta make it radio playable.
that's right.
It was
That's
also
how,
a different time back then where people didn't bleep things out and they changed the lyrics for things instead.
right. So that's that's my take on the song. As I say, I think everybody probably would perhaps interpret it slightly different, but I think in general it's a song it's about a crossroads. It's about moving from one point in your life to another, and however that fits into your own personal life narrative is probably how most folks would interpret it. I can say I did find in my research on the song that when Pina was writing the song, his original intent or meaning or reason for writing the song was more about actually out of anger. And supposedly he was writing multiple songs for whatever record label he was working for, and he was being forced to fly from LA to New York to record the song, and he didn't want to do it. He wanted to stay in LA to record it, and as a result of that anger and frustration that the record label was forcing on him, he supposedly wrote this song. But my understanding is that when Steve Miller of the Steve Miller Band got a hold of the lyrics, he was given permission to change it up and change the order. And so the song we hear today is, my understanding, this article I read, is not the original order of the lyrics in which it was written. So, I didn't actually go and look. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. And I didn't go and listen to, as I said, Pina recorded a version of it in 2000. I don't know if he recorded the same version that Steve Miller Band did, or if he went with his original lyrics. My guess is probably he stuck to the Steve Miller version since it was so popular. But I can't say for certain.
Yeah, and I don't know if you looked anything up about the Paul Pina, but that guy had a rough life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at 20, he was completely blind.
Oh, wow.
He had suffered from many illnesses, had cancer. Just that guy had it rough. So I can see how he would possibly make a little bit of an angry song, being dragged back and forth, things like that.
Yeah, I did read somewhere where this song really was his only source of income for a decent chunk of his life. And as the writer, he obviously held all the royalties to the song. And, I made reference to the synthesizer intro to it. That portion of the song was written by Steve Miller. And so this is a little bit sneaky, but in doing that, they both were able to share the royalties, whereas otherwise Pina would have gotten all the royalties from the song. Which is a little bit of a backhanded way of
yeah.
If Steve Miller ever listens to this, sorry. No judgment. But
obviously
anyway.
Matt's a fan of the song, so no judgment there.
Great song. But anyway, I think that's a good segue into talking about how the song performed. It hit in the US. It hit number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. Hit number 3 in Canada, which was really the highest charting country for the song. It charted in top 10 in a few other countries, but Canada and US were its most successful countries, I guess, to chart in. And a lot of folks have said that musically, the intro, that kind of synthesizer portion that I kept referring to, sounds a lot like the song Crossroads by Cream. So I'm not sure if you ever heard that song, Greg, or any of our listeners, if they've. it sounds pretty similar to the intro, but
I'll have to check that out after.
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not a lot of there's some of our previous episodes we've had a lot of random facts and statistics about songs, but I don't really have much else for this one. It's a good song. I really like it. It's very catchy. As I said, it really reminds me of just kind of going joyriding with my dad and just kind of jamming out to the radio. But
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose, just listening to music that you find reminiscent or that you can just jam to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the song definitely did that for you.
Yeah. Do you want to jump into Airplanes by B.o.B?
Yeah, sounds good. So Airplanes is by B.o.B, and it features Hayley Williams of Paramore. She sings the chorus in this song. The song was actually not originally written by B.o.B. It was actually written by Lupe Fiasco, and then the song was passed on to B.o.B, who then wrote his own lyrics for the song as well. Additionally, Hayley Williams didn't write the chorus for the song. That was another hip-hop group, that Kinetics and One Love, that actually wrote the chorus for it, and Hayley Williams sung it.
Nice.
Anyways, getting into the song, starts with the chorus, Hayley Williams singing, "Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars? Could really use a wish right now." Basically saying that shooting stars are very rare. Or I guess I shouldn't say very rare, but there's many more airplanes than there are shooting stars. So if you could use airplanes in place of shooting stars to make a wish, it would really help them or help whoever in that situation, right? So that they can make that wish to get to where they want to be. And specifically going into B.o.B's first verse, he's looking at that he could use a dream or a genie or wish to go to somewhere more simpler. So this kind of goes back to our third episode on trains, where we were talking about being reminiscent, going back to a place more simpler than this. Mm-hmm. And B.o.B is going back to that. He wants to just go somewhere before all the fame and all the partying and everything, because after all the partying, everything just fades to black. So it's all superficial, and then you get back to real life, and then you still have to deal with real life things.
Yeah. And talk about a line that was, this was a song that came out. When was this? It was 2010.
Yep. It was his third single off his first album.
Yeah. And this was, well, we've certainly talked about some songs that are newer. But this was probably a song that was released when social media was really starting to take off and be kind of the big thing. Mm-hmm. And just the number of social media references you would see these lines from the chorus on about being or needing a wish, or like
yeah.
Girls would post it on their Facebook or MySpace back in the day all over the place. And I guess MySpace was probably dead by 2010, but
I think that was when the transition to MySpace was really ending.
Yeah.
To that transition to Facebook.
I just remember seeing people quoting that chorus everywhere.
All the time. Yeah.
It's
folks,
such a inspirational
chorus.
Yeah. Inspirational quotes.
Yeah. I mean, depending on how you look at it and how you view certain quotes from people, it could be inspirational. Just kind of thinking, hey, don't worry about all these superficial things. Try to focus on what reality is. Go back to your simple times and focus on you, basically.
Yeah. No, I say that jokingly, but it actually really is it's a good line. I mean, it's whoever I don't know, there's several people, as we said, that contributed to writing the song. So whichever one of them came up with it, they definitely earned their payday. So
Yeah, I think for this, it was specifically B.o.B. actually kind of rewrote everything for him. He might have used some of the lines that Lupe Fiasco had or had some other help, but it was mainly written by him.
Yeah.
So he's very good lyrically.
Yeah. That's a
So,
great line.
yep. Continuing on through that first verse, he just talks about looking at how the story unfolds, basically talking about if you doesn't matter how the story unfolds, you can get another hand to fold. So basically, if you fail at one thing, just keep trying and go to the next thing, and don't let your plans unravel and beat you down, basically. And he's hoping for that airplane so that he can make the wish on the airplane so that he can kind of make that big break and get famous and continue on with his dream.
Right. Yep.
And then going back into the chorus, can we pretend that airplane's night sky? Same thing as before, just continue to hope that he can make that wish on that airplane. And then the second verse goes more into doing things for the love of it. So before this job, before he got paid, before it mattered what was in his bank, so before all the money and the fame and everything, he used to work at Subway. So he used to rap and work at Subway and just try to get by. And he was doing it for the love of rapping. But now that there's all the fame and the glory, there's all the politics of the music industry, things like that, he just wants to get his record label and keep making records for the love of it, basically. But nowadays we rapping to stay relevant. So that's just saying people just make music just to stay relevant, not that they actually love it. Things like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry. I was gonna say I kind of took this too, and I'm sure he loves what he does, but I took some of these lines too where he, yeah, it's talking about going back to a simpler place in time. But in some sense, I feel like it's a little bit of a dig at the music industry as a whole to
Oh,
some
it
extent.
definitely is.
He's got the parts in here about, like, um, before the politics that we call the rap game. Like,
Yeah.
he's clearly saying, like, I do not enjoy the side effects that come with being in this industry, but it's obvious that he loves what he does, and he's recognizing that he's got to put up with that if this is the career that he wants to continue to pursue.
Yeah, and then the next two lines covers that also, because he talks about nobody listened to his mixtape, and then right after that he talks about before he tried to cover up his slang. So he's from Atlanta, so Decatur. It's in Atlanta, so he's Southern, and he had his Southern slang that he would use in his previous music, but he stopped using that just so that he could appeal to a wider audience. So he's kind of changing who he is for the rap game, essentially, and the politics in it, so he can appeal to a wider audience, so that labels will take his record deal and fund him, and he'll get paid, basically.
Right.
Yeah. And then from there, and getting back to the music that started everything. So here he stands, hoping that he can make a wish on an airplane on that.
Yeah.
So a lot of similarities back to our second and third episode, and just wanting to go back to a simpler time and wishing that he could follow the dream that he originally had of just doing it for the love of it. And if you get paid on the side, that's a bonus to it.
Yeah.
So
I Yeah, and the song was pretty. It was, well, not pretty. It was very popular.
Yep, it charted number 2 in the United States, and it got number 1 in the UK. And then it charted in quite a few other countries as well.
Yeah, think it hit number one in, well, what I saw, it hit number one in New Zealand,
Two, three,
UK, Israel, and the Czech Republic.
yeah, six or five countries that got number one, and then
Yep.
the UK was number one single and number one R&B chart.
Yep. So thinking about these two songs together, obviously they're connected by airplanes or jetliners. I think they both songs really talk about and use we'll talk about airplanes and use the airplane as a metaphor to go somewhere different in their life, right? But it's interesting because they're different because they want to go in opposite directions.
And also how they want to use the airplane as well. So for Jet Airliner, it actually wants to use the airplane physically to go somewhere, whereas in airplanes, he wants to use the airplane as a shooting star to make a wish upon it so that he can go to where he wants to be.
Yep. And I think too, thinking about these songs from a somewhat interpretive point, Airplanes by B.o.B is more explicitly anti-music industry, for lack of a better phrase. But
Sure.
but I think but I think Jet Airliner, if we think about it from how the song was originally written, now granted that's not what the lyrics say now, but if we take that storyline, then that's also an anti-music industry kind of intent in terms of how the song was written.
Yeah, and I think we can totally take that because that was the original intent for the song, and the whole purpose of like discussing the song is talk about the origination of the song and then what it was ultimately used for. So the artist who actually uses the song can do whatever they want with the song,
Right.
to send that message. But Paul Pina obviously had his message that he wanted to send with the song, and that's why he wrote it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I don't know, Greg, if you thought about any differences, but I came across apparently that B.o.B is a flat earther.
Oh man, this guy. there's actually a an argument between him and Neil deGrasse Tyson. So
Yeah.
with Neil deGrasse Tyson like tweeted or something like that, like, "Hey, I really like your music, but you should just stay out of science."
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well,
There's unfortunately there's a lot of artists and throughout music and film industry, all of that are anti-vaxxers, flat earthers, conspiracy theorists, whatever they may be. We are not condoning or condemning either. We are just stating our opinions.
well, no, I wasn't trying to make a political statement. I was just,
It's very funny with airplanes and being a flat
Yeah.
earther because the way airplanes work
Yeah.
doesn't mesh with being a flat earther.
Yes. They are opposites of one another.
Another interesting fact for this is B.o.B and Haley Williams never actually met each other until they performed this together for, I believe it was actually Airplanes Part 2, the one with Eminem at the MTV Video Music Awards.
Yep.
And they also didn't record the music video together. They recorded the music video separately because Haley Williams was on tour with Paramore at the time, and that's why they had not met before.
Yeah, it blows my mind. I mean, it's one thing, right, to not record a song in the same studio with other artists when you're doing collaborations. It happens all the time. But
we cut things with our audio all the time too.
Yeah. Greg and I have only seen each other in person once in our entire lives. Well, 1 week, but
yeah, 1 week.
But yeah, this idea that they've never even met in person before, and yet they go record a song, they record a music video, and then they show up and be like, "Oh, hey, how are you? Let's go on stage together."
Yeah,
it's pretty remarkable.
I just think the entertainment industry is just fascinating with that. I would love to like go on stage like that or something. I don't have any ability to write music. I could maybe sing it and be very terrible at it.
Yeah.
But it would definitely be a experience. An experience, sorry, proper grammar,
Yeah. I feel like I could, I don't know. I've never tried. I feel like I could probably write lyrics, but I mean, I did band and all that in high school, but I don't think I could like compose music or write, music. I don't
It's
play an
very
instrument.
difficult.
Yeah. I've been poking around. We have a piano in our living room. I've been poking around with that a little bit during quarantine, trying to see what I could do, but I don't think I could ever write a song.
Yeah, I write songs all the time while I'm taking a shower. I'll just like write them in my head and just sing them. And
Yeah.
my wife basically is like, "Okay, you can go sleep on the couch tonight. You're done."
Yeah.
It's never good. My cats
Yeah.
enjoy it though. They just come over to me. They like sit in front and they're just like, "Keep singing, man."
Yep. So now, Greg, I just have to, this really has nothing to do with comparing the two songs, but I know I told you offline. I got a chance to see B.o.B in concert about 10 years ago. He was where I went to college for undergrad. They put on a free concert for students on their first night back on our campus, and he was the guest artist. And this was like, I guess this song came out in 2010, so that would have been shortly after his debut album. So
Yeah.
I think this was like the only song that people actually knew. It's like the only song I knew, at least, when he was there. He was still kind of starting his career, but still pretty cool nonetheless.
Yeah, because he was well known prior to that, because it was a Ludacris song, I believe. No, it was a T.I. song with B.o.B and Ludacris that had come out, and that was, God, I don't even know when this song came out.
The song that he was on with T.I., or
Yeah, maybe this was after this album came out. Oh, that I'll have to figure that out.
was it On Top of the World?
Yeah, on
That
top of the
song?
world.
Yeah, that came out in
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
So that would have been a little before this.
Yeah, 2 years before that. So he was a little
Yep.
bit, I wouldn't say famous, but he was a little bit well known enough to be on a T.I. album.
Right. Yep.
And
Cool.
his mixtape was, the big one that he had was Cloud 9, which I think was a pretty good mixtape actually.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, we hope folks enjoyed this week's episode about airplanes, and this is being released on National Aviation Day, so it's perfectly fitting that we're talking about airplanes as our theme. But Greg, what do you next week? It's going to be Women's Equality Day, so we wanted to talk a little bit about, or do a theme centered around women and songs by powerful women and successful women, and to honor all the important women in our lives and in our country and the world that have really kind of helped advance and progress society forward. So what do you got lined up, Greg?
Yeah, I wasn't even going to try and pick a song to like describe women empowerment, so I had my wife pick the song for me.
There you go. Perfect.
The song she picked for me is Run the World by Beyonce, and I think Beyonce is a great pick for that. So
Yes.
we'll be diving into that one. Matt, what do you have for us next week?
Yeah, I'm going to take on the Aretha Franklin's Respect, which I've always loved that song, and I think that is reflective of empowering women in society, and I'm excited that we're gonna be able to talk about these two songs and really kind of dive into them. It's gonna be good.
That's good. I think it was in high school. I had me and my buddy burned a CD with RESP Respect on it.
Yeah.
And it was Respect like 20 times, just just played 20
On
times
repeat.
straight on repeat. And we gave it to our buddy as a CD. He was like, hey, can you bring me a CD with some songs on it? So we gave him that.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I think this is the end of this show. So thank you for tuning in and listening. If you can just check out our podcast on Google, Apple, whatever podcast streaming service you use, or check us out on YouTube, press the subscribe button, let your friends know, your family know, leave us a comment or email us at recordmashup@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions or recommendations for us, just let us know and we'll answer those, or we'll take your recommendations on. If you have a certain song or a theme that you want to use, let us know.
Absolutely. All right. See y'all next time.
All right. Take care.